Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. We are back again with cousin Napoli are ready to offer Arsenal Victor Osimhen if they get two players from Arsenal. But which two players are they interested in? We'll be covering that. Zubimendi is reluctant to come to the Premier League, but Arsenal and Arteta are still going to push for the Spaniard. And finally, Benjamin Sesko. The projects are on the table from Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, and even Leipzig. But which one will he pick? Cozy, how are you?
I'm brilliant. I'm doing very, very well. Big day, very, very big day in terms of the Benjamin Sesko story, because it's the one that all Arsenal fans are keeping our eyes on. And the fact that Manchester United have now sent in their proposal, that means that it's complicated hours ahead, it's complicated days ahead, but very interesting situation. So I'm good, and I'm gassed up for the show. I want to know whether the people in the comment box below think Man United could beat us to a player, or those are the days of Sir Alexander Chairman Ferguson, and it's and they're behind us. So it should be a very good show today.
Personally, I'm not worried about those teams. These days, if you want a player, we are going to get a player. So we'll start with Victor Osimhen. As you can see scrolling down the bottom, make sure to follow us on Twitter if you're interested for more Arsenal conversation. Let's go with Victor Osimhen's story fast up. So we know this one is going to carry on for a couple of more weeks. You know how tough it is going to be. Yesterday, some news came out and Osimhen was posting a picture. I think these guys usually see what is going on and they post a picture to troll, like looking at the phone, like what is going on. But what's the latest on him? Now, we already know that Arsenal are interested in him, and according to reports from Di Matteo over the last couple of days, Osimhen would be ready to join Arsenal. He's actually willing to join Arsenal, and yesterday we were also told that Arsenal is the only team that are currently going in for Osimhen. But today, some more news has come out, and this is what has been reported. Napoli have picked out two Arsenal players, Takehiro Tomiyasu and Emil Smith-Rowe. They would be willing to include in any potential swap deal that would see Victor Osimhen move to the Gunners. That's according to the Mail Sport. Now, Kazi, before we talk about the players, is a swap deal something you've thought about?
No, I actually had not thought about a swap deal for Victor Osimhen because I've already said to every Arsenal fan that knows me and meets me, Aurelio De Laurentiis is one of the people I don't want to waste time negotiating with, unless he sets conditions that are very, very, meetable for a deal. You don't want to actually mess with them. So I've never thought about a swap deal. Napoli are very, very difficult to negotiate with. I remember when they sold Gonzalo Higuain, that was a lot of money, very, very difficult deal in the end. But listen, if he has a release clause, we know he's got a release clause, and we know that Napoli want at least upwards of 90 million. Arsenal are not going to pay that. So if there is players involved, it makes the deal easier. It makes the deal a little bit doable, and I think it softens it. I think they've realized that on the market right now, it's Kylian Mbappe who is going to cost 200 million, 100 million. In terms of strikers, clubs are actually not investing a lot of money, in terms of centre forwards. I wouldn't say. I'm looking at the likes of Joshua Zirkzee. I'm looking at the likes of Boniface. There's so many low-profile strikers, that could cost less, the likes of Sesko, that could cost less, and they could actually do a good job. So I don't think. Aurelio De Laurentiis is convinced 100% that Napoli will pull off that 113 million deal. I don't think it's happening. So they've got to find ways of moving him on. They've got to find ways of dealing with the situation. The market is not paying 100 million, so you evolve, you move with the current.
Okay, before we cover the swap deal, do you think Osimhen is regretting signing the new contract, or do you think he's like, oh, whatever, I know I'm going to end up at a different team? And also, do you think that signing the contract and taking it to 130 million euros has cost him like potential of joining some other teams, and other teams would actually have been in for him if he was around 80 million?
For me, that was an absolutely silly decision from Victor Osimhen and his agent. They knew in January that they were moving in the summer. They didn't have any intentions of staying at Napoli, and they had a bit of bad blood. They had a bit of a fallout between themselves and the club. So I'm asking myself, you're not at the best terms with Napoli at the moment, right? You've been trolled by the administrators, by the social media administrators of the club. You've been made a joke of, a mockery of, a fan of, and then you're signing a new deal. Then that should have showed you right away that you're no longer, as appreciated as you thought you were, at that club. So for me, it's a massive mistake, right? You commit to a higher fee for Napoli to benefit. Yes, you're going to get some good wages, but for how long? 6 months. So they chose easy gratification for 6 months over waiting for 6 months to go to a club like Arsenal, to go to a club like Chelsea, which in any way are going to give you more money that Napoli could offer. So I didn't understand it. I think it was a silly decision. And at the moment, if they don't get the club that they actually want, it will be that January decision. It will be that January contract they sign. Like, he goes to Saudi Arabia at 25. Trust me, his career is over. Unless he's saying, I'm going to Saudi Arabia for 2 years and then I'll come back and play for Lille, or I'll come back and play for Fulham, West Ham, right? So for me, that decision in January, that was lack of, it was lack of objectivity. It was lack of, ambition. You've got to look ahead. You've got to think about Ivan Toney was offered a new deal by Brentford in January, and he said, listen, my loyalty is here. I'm not going to leave as the club is struggling with relegation and we have so many injuries, but I'm not putting pen on a new paper. Yet I want to leave in the summer. I'm not saying a new deal because I want to leave in the summer. And what is this? This is going to do? It's going to extend the length of my contract. We are going to have to deal with higher prices because the club feel they have a lot of power in negotiations, and I'm going to stay for a longer time. There is a possibility, and people should know this. There is a possibility that Osimhen remains at Napoli if no one is willing to pay anything above 80 million. Right? They signed him for a very high fee, so they wouldn't want to make a loss over just getting rid of him. There is a possibility that he stays there. And that comes from the fact that they made a wrong decision with his agent in January.
I agree. I feel like if he was around 80 million, surely Madrid would have been linked to him. Barcelona would have been linked to him. Juventus would have wanted him. I know those two teams might not have been able to pay the money, but especially Juventus in terms of the money, but also in terms of they usually get linked to players who are coming from those teams. Like Higuain eventually played for Juventus from Napoli, and these players like these teams like maybe even Man United would have wanted him. He'd have had about Chelsea, about Arsenal, Bayern Munich, and now it's only Arsenal. I don't think it's only Arsenal because Osimhen is not a good player. I think it's only Arsenal because of that fee. And even Arsenal are kind of reluctant. We're not really sure about whether we're going to pay that money because I think this is what we were told earlier today. There's only Arsenal for Victor Osimhen, but they are far from the release clause. So that is pretty much very, very hard to do. Maybe that is why Napoli are offering a swap deal. Now, Smith Rowe, would you be willing to offer Smith Rowe for them to reduce it by 30 million? And do you think it would work out for him in Italy?
Well, I mean, it's a very, very interesting situation, the swap deal, because first and foremost, Napoli are very, very difficult to negotiate with. So if Arsenal are really having any hopes of us going in for a swap deal, it should be initiated by Napoli. Emil Smith Rowe, much appreciated by Napoli. They would love to sign him, regardless of whether we do a swap deal with Osimhen or not. They would love to sign him, as a player. And I think that's what I've talked about. Emil Smith Rowe. Every single club out there recognizes and respects his talent and his capabilities and his abilities. Yes, he's not been consistent, but the talent is there, and he is a very, very good footballer. So could it happen? I am not convinced. I'm really, really not convinced. The last time Arsenal did a good swap deal, I don't think I was alive. The Hendrik Mkhitaryan one, I don't think that actually worked out enough.
Why though? Because he wouldn't want to go to Italy, or why?
Now, first and foremost, I think because there are offers from Saudi Arabia, already De Laurentiis will want his cash. Secondly, I don't think Arsenal are going to be bullied or will want to be bullied in such a discussion. The thing is, when you do such a deal, you have to offer Emil Smith Rowe, maybe another player, and money. And that is where the problem is. How much do you value Emil Smith Rowe? Let's say 30 million. I don't think Napoli want to pay 30 million for Emil Smith Rowe. I think Napoli and the Italian clubs, like we know them, they want to do the cheap deals. They want to come and give you 20 million euros plus add-ons in Emil Smith Rowe. So if you're telling them that you're giving them 60 million euros or 70 million euros plus Emil Smith Rowe for Victor Osimhen, I don't think that's a deal for them. Already De Laurentiis will want cash as compared to such a deal. That is number one. Secondly, it depends on Emil Smith Rowe and the offers he's actually going to get. I don't think his entourage, I don't think his camp are going to advise him to go to Italy for what? Like to Napoli for what? Honestly, there is an offer from Aston Villa. There is interest in Fulham. There is interest from a couple of other Premier League clubs. His priority is going to stay in England. His priority is going to be, staying in the Premier League because, I mean, honestly, we've talked about Morgan Gibbs-White in terms of talent and exciting. Emil Smith Rowe could be at that standard, could be at that level. He could go and be the star of a club bigger than Nottingham Forest. So I don't see him go to Italy. I've already said that the manager that is going there, you might actually want him to go there because he's got a big potential at a club like Napoli under Conte. But I don't see him go there. That is the second reason. The third reason why I think this deal is not happening is I think there's so many clubs that value Emil Smith Rowe more than Napoli. So if I am imagining if Napoli are willing to spend 30 million euros on him, let's say 40 million euros on him, I think Villa will be like, as long as Arsenal confirm there is an opportunity on the market, we are going to pay and we're going to outbid anyone for Emil Smith Rowe. I don't see Villa just let that deal go. I don't see Fulham just let that deal go. I think we're gonna, what we are going to see is more of, more of clubs coming in for Emil Smith Rowe, and there will be a bidding war. There will be kind of a bidding war if it's going to move. So I think with all those factors, I don't see a swap deal for Emil and Osimhen crossing over the different directions. However, if Napoli got their money from wherever they get it, now I can see Arsenal receiving offers. If they're really serious about him, I can see Arsenal receiving offers of 35 million euros in a bid to replace Osimhen, right? So they would say we might get an Emil Smith Rowe and probably a Joshua Zirkzee, just to replace Osimhen. But in terms of a swap deal, that will need a hell of negotiations.
Now, maybe that's why it's not only Emil Smith Rowe. That's why they also want Takehiro Tomiyasu included there. Now, you've said Smith Rowe, hasn't played in Italy and all that, but Tomiyasu has. Tomiyasu has played in Italy before for Bologna. Could it be a place you'd want to go once again to kind of, he's not having a bad career at Arsenal, but in terms of injuries, never really, got to stick to the same position and, be a regular in that position for a season or two. So could you want a fresh start in Italy where he was before? And how much do you value, first of all, how much do you value Tomiyasu yourself?
For me, at the moment, despite the fact that he's injury prone, the versatility offers and the quality offers when he's available, I would say untouchable. One of the untouchables at Arsenal, no negotiations for these guys. Just sign a new deal. That is brilliant. Whoever is interested, goodbye. See you later. We'll talk later.
How much?
I think
how much if I'm here to sell it?
Yeah, I think if I were to sell, not less than 45 million euros. I don't know whether that would keep Souters away due to his injury record. So I would say not less than 45 million euros, but I would say even 50 million euros because centre backs these days, centre backs these days, if you want to keep them, you've got to price them highly. If you want to, if you want to get Takehiro Tomiyasu where he is right now in the market, minimum would be 35 million euros.
So if Napoli say 35 million euros, we Tomiyasu 35 million euros, Smith Rowe 30, 65. You give us plus 40 million. We're going to give you Osimhen. Do you think that is something else you'll be interested in at all?
Financially, I don't think it's a good deal. Honestly,
I think it's
financially, it's not a good deal for Arsenal, especially. But for me as a person, I would do that deal. I would really do that deal. Yeah, I would really do that deal. Reason is, I think we'll talk about it. The X factor that we've talked that has been mentioned today in all publications. Arsenal missing that X factor to unlock defenses, to score in big occasions and break down stubborn teams and break down teams on a big occasion, like we have seen Harry Kane, like we have seen a couple of strikers and players in in the UEFA Champions League. So that is why I would do that deal. Secondly, why I would do that deal is I know Tommy is reliable in terms of when he's available, but his availability is not reliable, right? And Arsenal are really big on getting a centre back, stroke left back. So I think that is one player I can say if we are bringing in left back, stroke centre back, I can move him on. Emil Smith Rowe, we know he wants game time.
Yeah.
He can get it in Napoli. Honestly, I can move him on as well, right? So that is around 65 million euros. If whatever we are adding on top is on top of those two, honestly, we should be adding something like 20 million euros or 25 million euros maximum. 25 million euros maximum. Then that's a deal.
If it's 25 million, I'd do it. They'd say 50.
Yeah. Now you can't. If it's anything above 25 million euros on Takeru Tomiyasu and ESR, don't do that deal. Really don't do that deal, because a club like AC Milan could be big on Tomiyasu. A club like Inter Milan could be big on Tomiyasu, and ESR, like I said, any club that comes in with 30 million euros, there will be another club that is willing to add 1 million or 5 million on top of that.
What did you rate Tomiyasu's 3 years, right? 3 years at Arsenal so far, combined?
I would say he's rapidly gone from fan favorite because he came in at right back, and Arsenal had not seen a good right back since Bakali Sanya. So he's gone from fan favorite to he's a good squad player. He's a good player to have around. I would rate him at a 6 out of 10 if I was to use the 10 scale. 6 out of 10. I think he's been there. I think he's showed quality. I think he's a player that has managed to convince the manager that, hey, when I'm around, you've got to notice me. When I'm not around, you can do whatever you want. And you can see fans demanding for him. We can see even us here, we've said, we had to play him against Bayern instead of Jakub Kiwior. But why? Because we know he's more reliable, and we know that defensively, he's got that quality. So I would say a 6 out of 10. Not a bad player at all, honestly. Not one of those signings that I think Arsenal wasted money on. And there is still a lot of money in him in terms of Arsenal wanting to sell. But also think about Arsenal slowly building that second, that second squad from the first squad, where you have the likes of Takeru Tomiyasu, Jakub Kiwior. He's one of the players that without Saliba and Gabriel, we are all turning to him. We are all like, where is Takeru Tomiyasu going to play? Is he going to play at left back to replace Gabriel, or is he going to play, at right centre back to replace William Saliba? So because he's reliable, I would say, slightly above average his time at Arsenal, 6.5 out of 10.
Interesting. So 4 questions. You just tell me yes or no. So Tomiyasu plus 80 million euros to get Osimhen.
No.
Smith Rowe plus 90 million euros to get Osimhen.
No.
Tomiyasu plus Smith Rowe plus 50 million euros to get Osimhen.
No.
Tomiyasu plus Smith Rowe plus 30 million euros to get Osimhen.
30 million euros. Oh my God. I mean, in terms of Emil Smith Rowe, that would be pure profit. You sell him? No, don't do it. Smith Rowe is pure profit. And that's why, like I said, the swap deal for both of them is actually not a very good one, because in terms of Takeru Tomiyasu, Arsenal would be making, if we sold him at 35, we would be making, did we bring him in at 15?
Around, I think almost 20, if I'm not wrong.
Almost, yeah, 18 to 20. So Arsenal will be making a profit of 15 million to 20 million euros on him. And then with Emil Smith Rowe, whatever we sell him at, he's pure profit. So no. Like Napoli, you're dreaming.
It's an interesting one. Let us know in the comment section what you guys make of this Napoli being interested in 2 Arsenal players as a swap deal, and how much do you think they should offer, and what would take you to the other side of saying, yes, let's get Osimhen and give away Tomiyasu and Smith Rowe? How much money would they have to tell you to pay for you to accept the bid? Now, let's go to the midfield. That's striker issue. We'll come back to striker issue later. Midfield. We've talked about Douglas Luiz. We've talked about João Neves. We've talked about Bruno Guimaraes so many times on both channels. Make sure to check out Koz's channel and the videos we're doing there as well. His link is in the title. Next up is Zubimendi. Now, Zubimendi is a player that we've talked about a lot for a couple of seasons. Recently, been told that Arteta really likes him. We could get him, but we have been told that maybe doesn't really want to come to England. This is the news that has come out about him today. Now, reports are suggesting that Arsenal remain very interested in Martin Zubimendi, with Mikel Arteta a keen admirer. The difficulty may be persuading local lad Zubimendi to leave the Basque region. Although he has release clause worth around £50 million, he has expressed no desire to move. That's according to the Athletic FC, very, very reliable. Now, my first question for you, Kozi, is in terms of Zubimendi, is he a player like, we really need to get Zubimendi, or you're like, I'm not really bothered, even if you don't get him, he's not really high on my list of midfielders?
He's not really high on my list of midfielders, that's the truth. And I think even if Arsenal missed out on him, he's easily replaceable as a target. Like, if you missed out on him and you went and got Joe Palhinha, I don't think you would really, miss Zubimendi a lot. If you went out and got Douglas Luiz instead of him, I don't think you would miss him a lot. If you got and
if you joined like a Liverpool, would you be worried?
I think in terms of longevity and their project, he would massively be a major block. Like him, McAllister, or him and Caicedo, he would make them much better. But I don't think Arsenal would lose to them just because Martin Zubimendi is there. I don't think Arsenal would lose the title because he's gone to Man City. I think he's more of a player that stabilizes any team he would actually go to, right? But that doesn't really mean clubs are going to find it difficult. I don't think he's a Declan Rice. I don't think he's a player like Sadio Mane or Salah, that type of signing that you sign and you hear your rivals getting, and you're like, we actually need to rethink whatever we're doing. The dynamics have changed. So I don't think he's a player that has always been high on my list, but I've always appreciated his qualities. I've always said he's a baby Busquets, and the Barcelona fans are really, really big on him because when they look at him, they actually see a player who is very, very similar in terms of playing style, in terms of physicality, understanding the game. His brain is very, very sharp in terms of those tight space situations and wing the ball back. For Arsenal, I'm not surprised that he's on top of that list. Why? Because he's been there as a target. We've wanted him. We've looked at him for more than 2 years actually, right? And he's turned out any opportunity to come to the Premier League on more than one occasion. I don't think it's Arsenal actually only. We've had Tottenham interested in him, and I think there was another club, was it like Brentford or Brighton, that were interested in him, and still his answer is the same. I'm not moving. I don't want to leave Spain. I'd rather stay here. So for me, I think he's a big target for Mikel because he understands him and he understands his game more like.
That was going to be my next question. Why do you think he really launched him at Arsenal?
Yeah, so he understands his game, and he's a player that. Remember when Mikel Arteta played at Everton, right? When they had the likes of Marouane Fellaini in that midfield. Now, Marouane Fellaini, the football he played at Everton, we didn't ever see it again, right? But because there's some players that are meant to play under a certain manager. A manager signs a player, he understands him, he knows how he's going to use him, and you will be attracted to sign that player, but you will never use him the way such a manager understands him. So for me, he wants him because of the profile of the role. In that defensive midfield, at Arsenal, at Man City, at Real Sociedad, at FC Barcelona, it's about how quick you can read those situations, and that's what Mikel Arteta knows. How quick can you read situations? How quick can you anticipate situations? How quickly can you impact the game? How quickly can you switch it up? It's not about are you physical? Are you very energetic, dynamic? Yes, you could be. Partey is. But even if you're not, right? You've seen Jorginho this season. Mikel Arteta trusted him, and we went a whole run of games just winning, keeping clean sheets, and the power was in Arsenal holding the ball rather than chasing to win it back. So I think that is what Mikel wants Zubimendi for. A very good ball winner when you actually look at his numbers, but also in terms of the eye test, you can know that he's a defensive midfielder. But where is his power? His power is retaining the ball, keeping position, staying central. That is what Mikel Arteta is interested in. If you want to continue this dynasty that we're building, where teams are just suffocated, one shot on goal, 0.01 xGs, you must have players coming in that can keep the ball, players that can take care of the ball very well. We know that the likes of Kai Havertz are superb at pressing and winning it back. The likes of Odegaard, they're good at pressing and winning it back. But because they play very, very highly, they're likely to lose the ball a lot of the time. They're trying to break through the lines. They're trying to create things. They're trying to overcome low blocks. So then you've got to have that player behind them that is so good at recycling possession, always recycling. And I think when I look at Martin Zubimendi, that is literally what he does. And he's done it very well in a La Real side that I wouldn't say 100% have the best midfield, in the La Liga this season. I wouldn't say that. I would be lying. I think they've had very, very good forwards this season, but in terms of midfield, I don't think they've really impressed me that much. So for me, I can see the picture why Mikel Arteta is crazy about him. What I just don't understand is why he is crazy about La Liga and Spain.
I mean, he doesn't want to come to the Premier League, so that is a massive problem. So you'll have to really convince him. I don't know if he's interested in the money, if that money will make him change his mind. Will Arteta offer that money just to get Zubimendi to the team, or does he have other targets like him? Because if he goes for a player like this, like every single time, seems like he really, really wants him. So another quick fire questions, Kazi. Zubimendi or Douglas Luiz? Who would you pick?
100% Douglas Luiz.
Zubimendi or Joao Neves?
100% Martin Zubimendi.
Zubimendi for 50 million or Bruno Guimaraes for 100?
Interesting. Very interesting there, but I think Bruno Guimaraes is a no-brainer. Like any Arsenal fan that says, Bruno Guimaraes, this and that, just wasting time. I think Bruno Guimaraes, you go with Bruno Guimaraes. Next 8 years, that midfield is sealed.
So I think over the next couple of days or couple of weeks, we'll either hear the Zubimendi change in mind, or maybe you'll just hear this story just dying down completely and then decides to stay there. Maybe ends up at a Barcelona, Atletico Madrid or someone like that. That could also happen. But
actually, I see him at a club like FC Barcelona. I see him at a club like I don't see him at Real Madrid unless they change manager, because
there are too many midfielders anyway.
Yeah. So Tchouaméni for me and Camavinga are there for the long time. I don't see him going to Madrid, although he likes Xabi Alonso. And Xabi Alonso's next club as manager could actually get him, as a signing. But I see him either stay at Real Sociedad for a very long time. We've seen those things happen. Or he waits for Barcelona, who now have Hansi Flick, who's actually not very big on the Catenaccio Toto football style of play. So he might not have a chance there, there. But I mean, it's so hard to convince such a player who's, big about a region, big about the culture of where he's coming from, as compared to, career development and all the other things. But when I look at him on the screen, I'm like, why? Why don't you just give yourself a chance, come to the Premier League, become the next Rodri, dominate football, and you're going down in history? Why don't you just do that?
He's not obviously he's not a starter for Spain. It is Rodri, but we'll see him in the Euros maybe a couple of times.
Yeah, we will see him in the Euros. I think with Rodri, he's now big in terms of the Spain midfield, but also in terms of just coming in. I think we will see Zubimendi a couple of times.
Now you said Zubimendi. Let us know what you make of Zubimendi in the comment section. Are you really interested in him, or are you like, let's go for the other midfielders? You said Zubimendi is absolutely in love with the region. Now, we'll be in trouble if Sesko is also in love with the region, because Leipzig have also put up a contract. According to Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Chelsea have presented their projects to Benjamin Sesko. RB Leipzig have offered him a new improved contract as well. It's in Sesko's hands now. It's time to decide. So let's start with the RB Leipzig factor first. So I thought, for me, he was not going to like sign a new contract or anything like that, or Leipzig wouldn't offer him a new contract. I thought, listen, they just want to pull in more money, so they'll just try to put it all the way, take it all the way to June, and then get money for him and then sell him. RB Leipzig sell a lot of players, let's be honest. Recently players like Forsberg is gone to USA. I'll not be surprised if Olmo left, Kunku has left, Van has like so many players have left Leipzig over the years, and it's not surprising at all to see players leaving Leipzig at all. So I'd not be surprised if this one left at all. But they've actually offered him a new contract. Do you think they're doing this because he's a really good player and they see him as part of the team, or do you think they're just doing it like the Osimhen one, just to get the money up for January of the next season?
I think when it comes to RB Leipzig, Dortmund, Benfica, at Ajax, you can never undermine them in terms of sporting a very good player. You can never ever undermine them. That it's the same way you would respect Madrid about winning the next UCL. You always respect them. So RB Leipzig have seen this boy from the Red Bull Salzburg team in Austria, and they have said he could go to Man United. He could have gone anywhere, but they have said bring him here because they know this is a real talent. This is a very, very, a good talent with a high prospect. Now, I don't think he's actually at the level. We're going to talk about the contract later on. I don't think he's at the level where you're saying they want to absolutely keep him because he's one of the best players on the planet. But they're just forecasting. They're saying if he has scored 13 goals in 14 games in the last part of the season, what if we gave him 30 games and he scored 20? Right? The thing with strikers is he can score 14 and you're like, he scored below 20. But he just needs to add 4 more goals to make it 18 or 6 more goals to make it 20. And it's very, very attractive. So I think that new value, that new contract is to protect the value of the player, protect the value for RB Leipzig to make him a lot of money, but not because they're just holding him ransom, because they know and they knew right from the first place when they were getting him, this was our Erling Haaland. This is our chance to make 65 plus million pounds, not euros, from a striker as well. So I think it's purely financial and it's also purely out of admiration and trying to continue the project they started almost a year ago when they actually got him from, actually not a year ago because Red Bull Salzburg is also part of their club. So the project started a long time ago and they have seen his development, they have seen his progression. They're like, 1 more year and this guy, we are getting 70 million. We are getting Darwin Núñez numbers.
Interesting, because I didn't actually expect him to be offered a new contract at all. That's a very, very surprising news. So if he does love the region,
I actually expected it. Yeah, because if we think about release clauses, the only player you don't give a new contract when his release clause is near is a player that you're willing to sell at that price. I don't think Leipzig are willing to lose Sesko at 55 million pounds. It would be criminal for them.
Interesting. Now, the problem is if he loves the region like Zubimendi loves the Basque region and he wants to stay there, then he might decide to sign the contract. Now, Leipzig are not the only team that have actually put a proposal on the table. He has 3 other proposals on the table: Arsenal, Manchester United, and Chelsea. Now, before we go to Man United and Chelsea, what do you think Arsenal have offered him in terms of wages, in terms of playing time? Do you think we've, promised him game time as a center forward most of the games? Do you think you're offering place like a place on the bench? You're going to play some games, you're not going to play some games, and do you think that is going to appease him enough to choose us ahead of the other 3 teams?
Yeah, I think in terms of the Arsenal offer, I would also be very, very interested to see how much attractive we've decided to go, and how truthful we are to this young lad. But when we consider the fact that it was discussed internally after the Bayern game that Arsenal lacked a certain X-killer factor in that game, right, on a big stage. And I think that is this idea, that is the dream they're selling to Benjamin Sesko. we don't have a player like you. So when we play a club like Bayern, when we play in the UEFA Champions League, on all the big stages, you are going to be considered and your game time is there. We are getting rid of the likes of Edin Ketia. We are getting rid of the likes of, Gabriel Jesus either this summer or next summer. You're going to be an important player. Secondly, what Arsenal can offer all these clubs that all these clubs cannot offer is we are the next project. We are the next big thing. And I think many fans actually, if Liga had me saying this, he will be like, not yet until we win. But I'm going to allow myself to be a little bit deluded here. I think it is set in stone that Arsenal win the Premier League in the next 2 years. It is set in stone.
I agree.
That project, that age range, that manager, I'm sorry, if we don't win it, it is supernatural forces. It is UFO, aliens controlling the Premier League, just end the league. It is set in stone. So I think when you're a player like Ben Sesko, and we talked about this before, why young players would join Arsenal right now and why superstar players would join Arsenal right now, it is the project that has reached self-actualization. It's the project that is reaching self-actualization. It's about polishing, right? The report that I read today that I liked the most was last summer, Arsenal were trying to finish what you would call the skeleton or the framework of their project. This summer, they're looking to add depth and quality so that Mikel Arteta can work with a bigger pool of players. Last season, he worked with a pool of 14 players that were consistently sharing the minutes. Next season, he wants to work with around 18 to 20 players that are actually sharing the minutes. So if you're Benjamin Sesko and you look at how Arsenal really performed, you're like, this is a project I want to be part of. And I think it's also been offered the option of look at Kai Havertz. He's not a center forward. I mean, you've got to talk to him about that. He's not a center forward, and what he has done in terms of 20 GA, there is no guarantee that he can actually maintain that. Whereas you, who's coming in to be fed by players like Ben White, who are improving every single day, Julian Timber, who is a creative player, Declan Rice, Odegaard, you have the chance to come and put in crazy numbers in a well-organized project like Arsenal. In terms of wages, I think we will double his wages to around 100,000. In terms of progress, I think there's no doubt there. Like, Arsenal don't need to tell him that in this place young talents thrive. We don't need to tell him that in this place players that need to prove a point to the whole world thrive. We don't need to tell him that. So I think Arsenal have tabled something good. The question is, are we going to beat the lucrative offer offered by Leipzig? Because that is something both of us really need to talk about. Because I've been very overwhelmed today. Really overwhelmed with what they've done.
Leipzig have Champions League football. We have Champions League football. Something we can both offer ahead of those two other teams in Man United and Chelsea. Man United can offer Europa League. Chelsea can offer Conference League football. Now, first of all, I'm not sure why Man United want him. What do you think Man United are offering? Because they already have Højlund as a centre forward and Rashford and Garnacho playing on the left side. Do you see Sesko starting at Man United if he goes there?
Yeah, I see Sesko starting at Manchester United, especially with the inconsistency and the attitude of Marcus Rashford. Now, the thing with Alejandro Garnacho and whoever could play on the wings, either Anthony or Jadon Sancho or Amad Diallo, is their quality. You expect them to give you maybe 12 goals and maybe 6 assists, and that's the end of it, maximum. With a player like Benjamin Sesko, we've got to agree that Manchester United missed the brilliance of a player like Rashford this season. So if they get a player like Benjamin Sesko, they know we have Rashford, we have Sesko, we have Anthony, and we have Rasmus Højlund. You have those 4 players that are really reliable. They're trying to rebuild, obviously. At the moment, their project is still, on bare bones. Their midfield is non-existent. Their defense is non-existent. But I see him as a player who would go there and actually play alongside Rasmus Højlund. I wouldn't see him on the bench a lot of the time, given the lack of quality they have on that forward line.
That's very interesting. Last question. Out of those 3 teams, which one worries you the most in terms of beating us to Sesko?
It's very interesting, actually, because then it needs us to dive into the projects that have been, the proposals that have been tabled for Benjamin Sesko. So let's start off with the one at RB Leipzig. The one at RB Leipzig is the one we concretely know what has been offered. Number one, they're offering him Premier League wages, so that would be double the wages he's getting right now at Leipzig. Secondly, they have UEFA Champions League. Thirdly, they're giving him the option that if he does well and clubs return for him next summer, he's actually going to be sold. They're not going to stand in his way. When you think about all that, it's a very good offer, right? It's a very, very good offer. And that is the best RB Leipzig can offer. But I don't think, because he's been offered 100,000, Arsenal are going to give him 200,000. I don't see Arsenal do that kind of deal. Chelsea would be the mad ones that would triple his wages at the moment. We know, but Man United are not in position to actually do that. So in terms of wages, you've got to be cautious about that Leipzig deal, right? One of the basic reasons why he would want to move right now is just 21. We'll be like, what? 100,000 a week? I've got to go and make this money. Leipzig are saying, we are going to give you Premier League wages. Do not worry about that. And also, we are going to make you the star of the project. You're going to be the star of the project this season. This coming season. So one of the reasons I assume Sesko would want to leave is Openda, and also the fact that he wasn't the main man, and he thinks, I'm my own man. I've scored a couple of goals. I should have been the lead man in this project. Xavi Simons, who's been playing up top, is probably going to Bayern, probably going somewhere. We shall be getting news about that. So there is now a new opening for Sesko on that forward line, and I don't think there is any manager that is going to put him on the bench after what he did for them in the last few games. So lead man and star of the project, Champions League, good wages, and he has guarantee that he can leave. That is also a very good factor. And also, he doesn't have to adapt to any new environment. He's just come from Austria. One more season, if you're advising Sesko and you're his agent, this is what you'd say. One more season at a top club in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe would do you more good as compared to you going to crush yourself into a project like Man United that is dead at the moment, or Chelsea that you don't know what is going to happen under the new manager. So I am afraid of that Leipzig's position, that Leipzig proposal. I would love to know what you think about it, because most players would put pen to paper on that deal.
Yeah, especially if he's convinced that he's going to be a starter there. That's a deal he probably would take. There's a lot of players that have moved on from their teams, and we felt like they moved on a bit too early. No standout jump on my head right now. I don't know if you can remember any, but I'm sure there's last couple of years you've looked at a player and they're like, this guy has moved on too quickly. I think one of them might have moved to Liverpool. I've forgotten who it was, but yeah, you feel like they've moved too early to stay in their team for one more season and then see how it has gone. If any other offers come in, on top of my list would be Enzo at Chelsea. Enzo at Chelsea would have stayed at Benfica for at least up until the end of that season, and then see what other teams. Maybe Barcelona would have wanted him, maybe Bayern would have wanted him, maybe Real Madrid would have come in for him. So players do move on a bit too quick. But we were told that Sesko, we were going to make an offer this week, and it looks like he's our point of focus, and we're very serious on him. And if he actually does choose Arsenal, then I think that deal will progress very quickly and we'll get it done. But let us know what you make about all that. Which players are you? Which teams are you worried about in terms of beating us to Sesko? And the latest on Osimhen as well. Let us know what you make of that. Thank you for watching. This was me and Cozy, the Glenn and Cozy podcast. Make sure to click on his link in the title, check out his channel, and check out the video we've done later on today. Thank you for watching. Catch up with you on the next.